at the Max Planck Institute for the Science of Human History, we rely on a network of collaborations with people and institutions from around the world to explore major questions in human origins and societal change.
These global partnerships span dozens of countries and allow us to combine cutting-edge field and laboratory analyses to formulate new ways of understanding the past.
On this web series, we'll talk with our international partners to hear about their interest in archaeology, their research, and their vision for the sustainability of archaeological research in the future.
This is ArchaeoChats.
Welcome to ArchaeoChats, conversations with our partners from around the world. I'm Bob Padalana.
And I'm Emma Finestone. We're researchers at the Max Planck Institute for the Science of Human History in Jena, and your hosts. Today we're joined by Dr. Shixia Yang, calling all the way from Beijing. Shixia is a Palaeolithic archaeologist based at the Institute of Vertebrate Palaeontology and Palaeoanthropology of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. She received her PhD there in 2015 and worked as a postdoc at the Chinese Academy of Sciences Institute of Geology and Geophysics. In 2017, Shixia was awarded the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation Fellowship, which allowed her to come to the Max Planck Institute to conduct research between 2017 and 2019. Her research examines how human evolution relates to climate change, and she's worked in collaboration with Professor Michael Petraglia, studying the Palaeolithic record of the Nihewan Basin to learn about behavioral adaptations of the earliest humans in East Asia. She was also part of a team that discovered the earliest stone tools out of China 2.1 million years ago, which was published in Nature in 2018.
Thanks for joining us today. Let's get right to it. Shixia, what was your introduction to archaeology and how did your research develop?
It's a question always asked by the people. A lot of my colleagues and friends would think that I began archaeology because when I was young, maybe I like this, finding out things and knowing old stories. But it's not true. After high school, most of Chinese students have to take the national examinations, which can allow you to go to university. And I'm not that bad, quite good. And because being a diploma is my ideal career when I was a little child. So I choose to go to the College of International Relations. But they do not select me. So my diploma dream then ended. So later I chose the famous university in South China called Sun Yat-sen University. And because except for being a diploma, I do not have other majors I want to really to take, and they gave me the major archaeology. So I was put into the archaeology majors. But then later I began to love it because it's so interesting. You can do the field work and you can reading at the same time. It's perfect. You can doing something inside and outside.
So in archaeology, what are your major research interests? What topics do you study?
I generally interested in human evolution, so I learned prehistory. And what period I really like is for the very early part, the beginning part. So when I'm a student, I'm reading, I'm always dreaming about Aldoi and very, very old sites in Eastern Africa. So later when I really begin the careers, I'm thinking about to finding out the oldest site in China and learning the earliest lithic technique in Asia, whether it's like Africa or it's different.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the early period too. And so when I saw that you were on the team for the 2.1 million year old artifacts in China, I was really excited. That's so awesome that you got to work on that.
It's funny because your interest started with Olduvai, and I worked at Olduvai, and the sites that you have in China are actually a bit older at 2.1, where some of the oldest archaeology at Olduvai is about 1.8, 1.9. So it's actually a really cool research connection. Do you have a favorite research project that you've worked on over the years, something that you're really happy or proud about?
I think I'm quite proud of that. I have joined a project for looking for the earliest site when I was student. I joined that project in 2012, so 8 years ago. At that time, I'm the undergraduate student. So it's just like being fun and going out to find, wow, when you find the first lithic in the very old layers, you are so excited. Wow, it's so deep, and there is a real stone tools. So it's very exciting.
There really is something special about holding a tool in your hand that one of our ancestors made, over 2 million years ago.
And you're so lucky that you were a student still when you were on that project, right? So like some people search their whole careers looking for the earliest technology, and you joined on and got that experience right at the beginning. I really wish I found the oldest something when I was starting out. But maybe that's yet to come.
Okay, so you said earlier that you like being in the field, you like being in the lab. What would you say is your most enjoyable aspect of being an archaeologist?
Being archaeology, I think especially I want to say being a prehistory archaeologist is very lucky because you have many different aspects. So in China, we put Bronze Age and Neolithic into social science, and Paleolithic are into the contemporary geology, so it's nature science. So being a prehistory archaeologist, you are very lucky. You have the two aspects. You can do in nature science, and you also bridge the social science. And being an archaeologist, it's a big fun to have different aspects. You should go out to make your hand dirty, to do some labor work, to dig and to find out things, to go in a long way to find something new. And you also can be very gorgeous, can into a nice meeting hall, giving lectures, go to the university to teaching. So it's really like give you different aspects of life. You can get different experience in your careers.
Great answer. I love that.
So, how did you end up teaming up with the Max Planck Institute here? Like, how did that come about that you came here and started working with our collaborators here?
It's a long story really, because when partly my PhD in France, in Bordeaux.
Oh.
So in 2014, in a conference, Robin Dano introduced me to Mike Patrick Liang and said, okay, both of you work in Asia. And at that time, I work in Bingcun, the Archaeolins in Asia. And Mike works on the Indian Archaeolin. So Robin said maybe that you have some topic you would like to share with each other. And then later, when I back to China, finish my PhD, I got my postdoc, and I into a geological institute. I searched for the archaeologists who also very interested in geology, and Mike back to my list again. And I say, okay. So I emailed him, asked him whether he's still interested in join some project in China. And he's very happy to answer me. And then we begin our working on some lithic assemblage of Nihewan, like Xiaochangliang and Donggutuo. We published together first. And then after my postdoc in the Geology Institute, I applied my job now, this job, and I also applied Alexander von Humboldt Foundation. But people told me it's hard to get it, so I applied to both of them. But very lucky, in that July, I get both.
Nice.
So, and my institute also allowed me to take my job and go to the Max Planck at the same time. So later, I developed cooperated relationships between two institutes, and also introduced some of my other colleagues to Max Planck. So now the two labs are working together. Not only me working with the people from Vienna, but also other of my colleagues also working with like Rob, Patrick, they're working together.
So it sounds like meeting Mike created a whole bunch of collaborations beyond you just coming to Max Planck. Which is really fantastic. How would you say this collaboration has benefited you since being back in China, since returning from the Humboldt? But more importantly, how have you helped Max Planck in their research since this whole collaboration has been established?
The institute in Jena is quite new, and I like the idea they make the institute to bridge the nature science to the social science, to use the scientific method to solve some historical questions. So the first important things I learned there, and to say how can I work on the bridge the two parts. Even when I'm back to China, I still try to work out with geologists, biologists. It's interesting to bridge each other. So I can bring China and bring German, France, bring the people together. It's quite good. I'm very happy to make my friend to know my friend in China, my friend in German to know my friend in China, and then later make the project bigger and bigger, and more people involved in, and more ideas came out together. And really, when I'm doing my research, I'm very proud of like doing Nihewan Basin, and build a sequence of the Nihewan cultures together with Mike, and we published a paper on the evolutionary anthropology, and it became the cover of the of that issue. I'm very happy. The first time the famous basin came to the journal covers because of our work.
You were a Humboldt Fellow. I think your tenure ended in December here at Max Planck. What is it that you've been working on currently since being back in China, since being back home?
I continued some work, like continued the project with Max Planck. So I still working in the project about Nihewan and the behavioral adaptations of the earliest Asian humans. And I also begin some new project. I traveling a lot in the last 1 month, go to different provinces of China, and try to send out new project along the Yellow River to find other sites, because you have 1.2, you should have a 2.1, you should have other things earlier or later, where it come from or how it's continued. So it's like doing something like sending out new sites.
So you're like looking for sites to fill in the gap between the 1.2 and 2.1.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Have you found anything?
We are lucky in China. We have the very thick Loess Plateau. Maybe you have seen the profile of the very thick Loess and Paleosoil from the Nature paper. That is a rich area and very potentials to have more sites in the futures.
If any, what are some challenges or issues that you've run into working on the archaeology of East Asia? Like something maybe specific to that region, or just a challenge working in the region that you work in?
I think maybe Emma can better understand my confusion and challenge in the career, because I think you learn for Africa for a long time, but as we both learn in the lithic technique and the napping technique, we know all this terminology is from Western. And when you apply it to the eastern part, you get problem. So in China, we have a long time to see whether we should use Archaeolin, whether we should use Loess. Is this correct to use the Western terms directly to the eastern assemblage? And you know, the raw materials is very different. In France, when you got the name Loess and Archaeolin, they made a nice chert. But a nice flint. But in China, you have the quartz, and something very different when you see the Archaeolins or the Loess. So you have a lot of this kind of question. And maybe during the dispersal or the moving, when people coming to the east, or the east people come to the west, they dropped some part of the technique. So it looks a little bit different. So when you're using this, it's quite confusing. When I published my first paper, I named the Dingchun site as the late Archaeolins in China. And a lot of Chinese colleagues are very angry. So why use archaeology? Why you use archaeology directly? You can see archaeology like, but why you use it directly like archaeology? I think why not use it? We need a communication worldwide. At that time, I do not believe there is a border between West and Eastern. The Eastern people use the East, the Western. At that time, the people are moving across. They never get the idea they are in West or they are in East. So why we should really separate it into two parts? Maybe because of the ecological system different, they have different maybe life ways to change the technique, but we should never try to build a border there. It's crazy. So it's hard. And some old professor until today cannot understand me. Why? You learn too much English.
You're right. It is a challenge because some people will say you can't have the Acheulean in China. And what are we actually talking about? Is it just typological? Is it a behavioral adaptation to local ecology? Should we use the same terminology? Yeah, I think that is one of the challenges going forward. I think I have one last question. What would you like to develop as a research project going forward, whether it's in China or beyond? Really, how would you like to see your career advance over the next couple of years?
I think I would, if in the future 5 or 10 years, when I really get understanding Eastern Asia better, I want to really have a joint project with my colleagues from Europe and Africa, and then we can have a real people acted project compare the early sequence from the different part of the old continents to see how the early humans really dispersal and moving around the land from Africa, Europe, China, Asia. How do they go? Maybe they backward, maybe they out again, something like that. I think that will be really funny, and we can including different people working on geology, environmental, and people like me and Emma who work in archaeology, and also colleagues who working on the paleoanthropology. I think that would be very cool.
Yeah, I'm in whenever you do that. I can definitely relate a lot to your research and your challenges and your future directions. I'm totally in if you end up doing something like that. Okay, so the last thing that we have is an Archaeo quiz for Bob. So Bob, what is Shixia's favorite thing about fieldwork? A, the combination of manual and mental work. B, when hippos invade the camp. C, washing clothes in a bucket. Or D, camping outside in tents.
I'd go with hippos, but they haven't been around in China for that long. I would say the combination of manual and mental work.
Correct. Do you have to wash clothes in a bucket when you do field work too? Shixia?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. I tried a lot with. You can go to the river. In South China, people go to the river directly, and you use the wooden stick, and they hit the clothes, pong, 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 and then they clean it.
Just as a last thing, actually, do you have any interesting or funny field experience?
Funny? I'm afraid of frog. You know the animal?
Frogs.
Yeah, all kind of frogs. So in the field work, I think at that time I'm still in the university. The third year, I first years go to the field work. One of the boys from my class, he threw a frog in front of me, and I dropped into the archaeology pit. It's very hurt, and I cried for 2 days. And I do not want to go back to the field anymore.
Well, it's a good thing you did, because look like all the great things you've done since then. So.
Yeah, frog is okay. They are good animal, just not so beautiful. if go out for field work with me, do not put frog in my tent. Thank you very much.
No, I'm glad you shared that with us. That's great. Now we know. Well, thanks for joining us. This was excellent. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us and doing this ArchaeoChats.
My pleasure. It's very happy to talk with you, both of you. It's a pity we really do not have a long time to spend together in Jena, but I think in the future, maybe we have a chance to working on one project or doing something funny things together.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, thank you. It was nice to finally meet you, and good luck with everything in the future. And I'm sure that we'll speak again at some point, given all of our overlapping interests. So.
Okay. Have a nice day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.